Hello, welcome to part 9, Wolves on the BackBit. This time around we are dabbling with the combo player some more, trying to figure out how many frame buffers I need, when to call the audio. Just untangling the wires and making it work better. It's not very fun. It wasn't fun to do. It may not even be fun to watch, but it had to happen. So in the end, I do rattle off a pile of experiments in the course of about 3 minutes. I do edit them heavily, just to get the results. Feel free to pause if you're curious and want to read something, but other than that, they're just going to go by so fast. I'm including them just because that's what happened around this time, right? So, I'm not sure of the date. What are we at? Day, maybe, well, it's about 3 or 4 weeks into the project now. I'm going to have to start measuring it in different numbers than days. But yeah, things are still going along. I still got my momentum. That can't last, I'm sure. Spoiler alert. Yeah. Anyways, let's get to it. Part 9, Frames and Buffers. Let's watch. Okay, this looks rather annoying, but I have a raster interrupt occurring here, and these bands are the length of time it's taking to copy one page to the color RAM. Every 10 frames, the raster interrupt says, "Hey, do you have a frame ready? I want to display it." But right now, there's no audio. So I want to make it so if the audio is playing, the raster beam, scoots on ahead and it's busy making changes behind it. So you won't see any disruption. As it is, I don't really see anything now. So I don't think it's a big deal if I change everything in the middle of the screen. But just to be perfect about it, I guess I'm trying not to. But yeah, interesting. Right now it's playing exactly as long as it should, but with the audio there, the audio can no longer keep up. So it's stuttering like that. Very annoying. So close, so close. You can see the bigger gaps now that the audio is trying to play in the background. And of course, it's not keeping up. And now the screen is kind of corrupting at the same time. This time what you see is actually the second tweak. Check this out. The color in the border is how many frames it's fetching. Like white is 1, red would be 2. Right now I have it thinking there's only 2 buffers, but there's 4, even though they alternate amongst the same 2 internally. So let me switch this back to 4 buffers and I'll show you why the audio starts to chop up. Alright, you see the tota fill here? I added that. So every time a buffer fills itself, we increase this. And when we're done, let's see here. When we're done, well, there's our 4 buffers now. When we're done, we set that to the background color and leave, right? Now, let's see here. But it's playing via raster interrupt now. If a buffer is ready when it wants one, it'll display it. So all the main loop has to do is keep it filled. However, now it's blue. So we have black, white, red, cyan, purple, green, blue. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is now fetching 7 frames, even though there's only 4 buffers. Because it's fetches 4, and then when it comes time, it sees this one's already empty because it's displaying this, for instance, and then it goes to here, and then it goes to here. But meanwhile, the display is kind of like with the audio, it's chasing itself, and it can't keep up now because there's occasionally it'll do fewer frames, which allows the audio at least a chance to update. So one way around this is fewer frame buffers, or, man, I can't think with this repeating sound, but I can get around this. So what we did here is trick it into thinking we only have 3 buffers instead of 4. This should work. But it doesn't. That's great. We're getting as far as the green again. Wow. And the blue. My routine sucks. The disruption in the border is during the BackBit access for the video only. It appears to be longer than 90 raster lines that it used to be, so I wonder what's up. And if we try to use only 2 buffers, you can see it's forcing itself to access the BackBit a lot more often. And that's generally why it's going so bloody slow. Because it'll do 1 for the video, 1 for the audio, alternating. So I'm on the right track trying to make it fill multiple frames at once, but it's still not able to keep up. I mean, I could integrate the skipping frame bit, because that was my original intention, if necessary, but ideally, in my setup, it shouldn't be skipping anything. So, yeah, interesting. This has nothing to do with the video, but check this out. I just had to throw in debugging stuff, but when you hold a certain key, look how perfect it's synchronized. Well, almost. Isn't that cool? Depends what key you press. This happens to be Control. Here's the letter S, Commodore key, space bar. Control is where it's at. Ooh, pretty. Okay, I'm done. Okay, I'm not done. Trying to get this to work, but the video won't advance. So then I just said, okay, screw it, disregard the buffer status and just play them. So this is about the only time the video is actually ahead of the audio. Not likely in the real world. It's not doing any of the color at all, I don't think. Too many frames are being skipped because I'm only running this from 2 buffers. And this is because my raster interrupt is set for here to update the color. So by the time it gets back to here, it's finally... Oh, we're about to hit the end. And it turns to gibberish. And anyway, at that point is where it's switching video banks and all that stuff. So I need to move my raster interrupt back a bit. Yeah. So I have a little frame skipping thing in place and a counter for it. This is me using the old NMI player where it saves the accumulator and does the check at the bottom where it'll delay a little bit to keep it synchronized out of the bad lines. In a moment you'll see how many skipped frames we get because of it. Interesting to note here, because of this, somehow the audio is getting way ahead of the video. And I don't really know why, and I don't plan to investigate too deeply because I'm not using this NMI in the end. It's tough to get it synchronized down the road, though. And there's how many skipped frames we have with my old NMI. I almost have to expand that to a 2-byte number. Wow. And soon I will, because in a previous test, it was hundreds of skipped frames, depending on when I skipped the frame. Let's see if I can show you here. Here, this is where we deal with it. It'll increase the video stream pointer. This is something new. I call it reach. So like if the pointer is set to here in memory and the next frame is here, we don't have to reset the video stream pointer here to grab the next frame. We just go, oh, we got 64K queued up already. So let's reach in 40 pages and get the next frame, or 80 and get the one after that, until it gets to 240. Then we know, well, at 240 you can no longer reach, it loop wraps. So we have to eventually call it quits without having to queue up the memory. But here's where we look for the skipped frames. If the raster interrupt decides that one is to be skipped, we will decrement that number and then just go back up and bump our pointer again. So effectively we're skipping a frame, but we're also skipping it kind of down the road a bit, because if there's a few things already in memory, it'll play those first and then play the one that skipped a frame. So it kind of puts the video out of sync with the audio temporarily. Now, something I did try a little while ago, and I totally crashed the source code here because it's now overwriting one of the bitmaps are overwriting it. So I got to keep my edits short. But here is where we queue up our video stream and we check for an available buffer with a 0. So here's where the trick is. So we fill up a buffer, flag it as ready to be displayed, and this is where it's skipping ahead the pointer. However, there's two ways I can do this. Well, I can leave this as is, which is kind of or I can put it here, the check for a skipped frame here, at which point it'll advance the pointer before it grabs the frame. And that seems to improve things. Now, here's the one where I got hundreds of skipped frames. I would grab the frame, and before I flag it as ready to be displayed, I'd check if there was a skipped frame to come. And if it does decide that, oh, we should have skipped a frame, then all we do is go, okay, forget it. We'll go back. We copy over that frame with an advanced pointer version of it. So it never gets saved until we have a good one. And sometimes it gets caught in a bit of a loop, a trap, because by the time it's going to fill up another 10K of video, another frame is officially skipped. Then when it gets done, it goes, ah, crap, and goes back. And the video ends up losing, when I had a double 2-byte skip counter, it lost about 780 of the 940 frames because of it. It just refuses to display something that's stale, and because of it, it ended up throwing away almost the entire video. It's very interesting, but terrible to watch. Now, my goal is still to trim this down as quick as I can make it. I thought my 6 frames per second was an easy to attain goal. That's why I chose it. I knew 8 was impossible because, well, you think about it. Think about the memory use. We got, at 8 frames, you got 8,000 for the bitmap, 1,000 for the video matrix, 1,000 for the color, and another 1,000 later to copy the color to the color RAM. So that's 11,000 copies per frame. And if you wanted to get, say, 6 frames per second out of that, that's 66,000 right there, plus another, say, 8,000 copies to bring in the audio for that second, and 8,000 copies later to play out that audio. So that's another 16,000. That puts you up to about 82,000 copies, not to mention the overhead for the NMI player itself. At 82,000, say 10 cycles per byte. Well, 820. As you can see, we're almost hitting our million right there. And that's not with extra, all this code and stuff running. So if I can make this leaner and meaner, I will be able to get close to 6 frames per second. My goal now that I have a rudimentary skip frame counter in place, is to try different things. what do you call it, and figure out which one will give me the fewest skip frames in the end. Now right here, well actually I have it in two places. 3,000 and 5,000. Oh boy, come on. It's the one-handed typing deal again. Oh, are you kidding me? I keep hitting home instead of delete. This is it for reals. Okay. Now, when we increase our buffer, it's 0, 1, 2, 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. Well, actually, that's an old comment, but I have this in place. I can put this back, and that will make it a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. It'll skip buffer 0. I have 3 buffers here, and one thing I've been doing, well, 4 buffers. If I change this to 1, I'm running off of just 2 buffers. So I have it simply tweakable at the moment. Even though it thinks there's 4 buffers, there's really not, because here's what my buffers are. See, bitmap, video matrix, color information, that's for 53272, and my video bank. So even though it thinks there's 4 buffers, it's actually just putting it in the same spot over and over. That way I'm not overwriting my source code and having to reboot the computer every time I want to make a little change, even though now I'm running out of space. That would be the last step. When I get this working, or I want to do a real test, I would change this to 20 and, you know, whatever, and go from there. But for testing, 2 buffers. Even though it thinks there's 4, it doesn't matter. The display becomes a little flickery because of it, but yeah, it's good for testing. Anyway, you hung on here for 7 minutes for this particular edit. I gotta press stop now. What I'm gonna do is do a few tests, and I will show on the screen at this point what I tried, how many skipped frames I got out of the deal, and you'll see, the results of possibly a day or two of testing in the next few seconds here. Because I really want to get this thing done right. But I also want to get it done. Man, I'm sick of looking at it, even though it's still cute.
Sooner would have been better. What? It was a great time. Yeah, too bad you had to stay home because must be because I haven't slept in 3 days. Oh, this darn toothache. Good thing it doesn't hurt as much as it used to. toothache just got better. I'm just excited, that's all. I'm feeling great. My toothache just got better. I'm just excited, that's all.
What did I do wrong that time? I forgot to change the video bank to 3. It was still stuck at, I think, 1. Crap.